She was wearing a pink shirt. That's the detail that started everything. That's the detail that ended everything. A pink shirt with a white unicorn on the front. Her mother bought it 2 weeks earlier from a Target on South Congress Avenue in Austin, Texas. Lily Walker had worn it 4 times already. She asked to sleep in it once. Her mother said no. Lily sulked for 20 minutes and then forgot about it. On June 19, 2024, Lily Walker wore that shirt to school for the last time. She was 7 years old. Last day before summer break, Oakdale Elementary, 340 students, 2 full-time security monitors, a front desk sign-in system, a laminated pickup protocol that every parent signed at the start of the school year. And at 3:58 in the afternoon, a man Lily had never seen in her life walked into that school, told one lie, and walked out with her. 65 minutes later, Lily Walker was found alive. Not because of a detective, not because of a tip line, not because of a surveillance camera or a police helicopter or anything that was supposed to be there. Because a gas station attendant named Alan Scott noticed something was wrong with a little girl's eyes. And because 4 strangers who had never met each other in their lives, and who, without saying a single word to each other, decided they were not going to move their cars. This is what happened in those 65 minutes. Every minute matters. Stay with me. Let me tell you about Lily Walker, before she became a description on 4 million phone screens, before she became an Amber Alert, before she became a number in a recovery statistic. She was just a kid, 7 years old, 2nd grade. She had a habit of collecting small rocks from the playground and keeping them in her left jacket pocket. She had a system. She believed the smoother the rock, the luckier the day. She would test each one with her thumb before deciding if it made the cut. On the morning of June 19th, she had 3 rocks in her pocket. She'd held each one carefully on the walk to school. All 3 passed inspection. Her mother, Claire Henderson, was a registered nurse at St. David's Medical Center. Single mother. She and Lily had lived in their rental house off Manchaca Road for 3 years, in a neighborhood where the streets dead-ended into Greenbelt, and the oak trees were old enough to have survived 3 generations of Texas heat. Claire's shifts were irregular, rotating schedule, occasional doubles, so the school had a standing arrangement. On days Claire ran behind, Lily waited in the front office. Claire would call ahead. The staff would keep Lily there. Claire would arrive. Simple. It had worked 17 times without incident. On June 19th, Claire hit a brake light wall on Mopac at 3:38 p.m. A truck had clipped a concrete barrier. 2 lanes closed. She called the school at 3:40. Voicemail. She immediately texted Lily's teacher, Ms. Wendy Page. Running behind. Accident on Mopac. Maybe 15 minutes. Can Lily wait in the office? Thank you so much. Wendy Page read the text at 3:44 p.m. She walked Lily to the front office herself, waited until the receptionist acknowledged her, told Lily she'd see her in September, and went back to her classroom to pack up for summer. That was the last time she saw Lily Walker at that school. 3:52 p.m. 8 minutes after Lily sat down in the office chair nearest the window, a man walked through the front door. Here is what the front desk staff saw. White male, 40s, about 5'10", brown hair neatly combed, blue button-down shirt tucked in. He did not look nervous. He did not look rushed. He moved with the specific energy of someone who belonged there, calm, unhurried, mildly impatient, the way a parent looks when they've done the school pickup 100 times and are already thinking about dinner. He told the receptionist his name was Warren. He said he was Lily's uncle. He said that Claire Henderson, his sister, had been in a minor accident on Mopac and had asked him to pick Lily up. He said Claire was fine. He said she'd call as soon as she could. The receptionist hesitated. Protocol at Oakdale Elementary was clear and had been clear since the beginning of the school year. Only individuals on the authorized pickup list could remove a child from the premises. Warren was not on that list. His name had never appeared on any form Claire Henderson had ever filed. She asked for ID. He reached into his back pocket and produced a Texas driver's license without hesitation. The name matched what he'd told her. The photo matched the man standing in front of her. She tried to call Claire Henderson. The call went straight to voicemail. Claire was still on Mopac. Her phone was on silent. The man said quietly, "She's shaken up. Fender bender on Mopac. She asked me to get Lily. I'm sure she'll call any minute." Think about the geometry of that moment. You have a child sitting 10 feet away in an office chair. You have a man with valid ID who knows the child's name, knows the mother's name, knows the exact road where the accident supposedly happened. You have a voicemail instead of an answer. You have a policy that says no, and a story that makes that policy feel like cruelty. She released Lily Walker to him at 3:58 p.m. He walked out of Oakdale Elementary with a 7-year-old girl in a pink unicorn shirt. At 4:15 p.m., Claire Henderson pulled into the school parking lot. She walked in and asked for her daughter. The receptionist said, "Your brother Warren picked her up." Claire Henderson does not have a brother named Warren. She doesn't have a brother at all. 4:17 p.m., 911. Claire is still in the parking lot, engine running. She can barely form sentences. The dispatcher keeps asking her to slow down. She keeps saying her daughter's name, as if repetition will clarify something that is already perfectly clear. Police reach Oakdale Elementary at 4:24 p.m. They interview staff. They get the description. White male, 40s, 5'10", brown hair, button-down shirt. Vehicle, silver Honda CR-V, Texas plates. Partial, 7FHK. 4:35 p.m. The Amber Alert fires. 4,200,000 phones in Central Texas light up at the same moment. Missing child, Lily Walker, age 7, black female, 3'9", pink t-shirt with unicorn graphic. Last seen, Oakdale Elementary, Austin, Texas. Suspect, white male, 40s, 5'10", silver Honda CR-V, partial plate, 7FHK. And the clock started. Here is what most people don't understand about Amber Alerts. They run on a window. The first 90 minutes carry the highest probability of recovery. After 2 hours, the statistical landscape shifts, sharply. After 4 hours, it shifts again. The man had a 45-minute head start and an interstate. He had been driving since 3:58 p.m. It was now 4:35 p.m. 37 minutes gone. You now know what was taken and how, but you don't yet know what was waiting for her at the other end. That's what changes everything. At 4:47 p.m., 12 minutes after the alert went out, a man named Alan Scott was finishing a shift at a gas station off Highway 130 in Pflugerville, a suburb about 30 minutes northeast of Austin. Alan was 54 years old. He had worked that same station for 11 years. Before that, he'd spent 9 years driving long-haul freight, Texas to California, Texas to Illinois, the kind of work that hollows out your sense of urgency about most things and leaves you with a very clear sense of what actually matters. He had a daughter in San Marcos who called him every Sunday without fail. He kept a photograph of her taped to the underside of the break room cabinet, not displayed, just there, the way some people carry a thing rather than show it. He was not an excitable man. His colleagues described him the same way, independently, when investigators came around afterward. Quiet, methodical, the kind of man who noticed things without needing to announce that he'd noticed them. He had seen the Amber Alert at 4:36 p.m., 1 minute after it fired. He was eating a granola bar in the break room. He read it the way most people read those alerts, carefully, then with the slow deflation of someone thinking, "That's terrible. Hope they find her." He noted Silver CRV, Texas Partial 7FHK, pink shirt, unicorn graphic. He went back to work. At 4:47 p.m., a silver Honda CRV pulled into Bay 3. Alan glanced at it. He was 20 feet away refilling the squeegee bucket. CRV, silver. He looked at the plate as the car rolled past. 7FHK. And then the car angled into the bay and the rear plate turned away from him. He didn't move yet. He watched. The driver got out. White male, 40s, brown hair, button-down shirt. And there was a child in the back seat. Alan Scott later told investigators that the child's posture is what stopped him. Not crying, not moving, not doing what children in back seats do. No phone, no fidgeting, no face pressed to the glass watching the world go by. She was sitting in the center of the back seat, perfectly still, and she was staring at the door handle. Just the door handle. Nothing else. Alan said, "It wasn't distress the way you'd expect it. It wasn't crying or screaming. It was the kind of still that happens after all that. Like she'd already worked through what screaming would get her and had arrived somewhere past it. That kind of still is worse. That kind of still means something has already been decided." He had a daughter in San Marcos. She was 26 years old, and she called every Sunday. He started walking toward the car. Alan Scott approached the driver, who was standing at the pump, and said, "Everything okay here, sir?" The man, Warren Glover, 43 years old, Austin resident, said, "Fine, just getting gas." Alan looked into the back seat through the rear passenger window. He saw the shirt, pink, white unicorn on the front, exactly as described. Alan Scott is not a man who panics. This is, it turns out, an extremely important fact, because what he did next took a kind of steadiness that most people do not have under pressure. He did not grab Warren Glover. He did not reach for his own phone in an obvious way. He did not change his expression or raise his voice or do anything that would signal to a dangerous man that the situation had just shifted. He became incompetent. "Pump 3's been acting up all afternoon," he said, frowning at the nozzle. "Let me just... hold on 1 second here." He fiddled with the pump housing, walked to the station utility box, peered at it, walked back, fiddled again, started talking, slow, rambling, the specific verbal texture of a man filling silence while waiting on something mechanical to cooperate. Meanwhile, he had made eye contact with his colleague through the glass door of the station interior. No wave, no point. No signal that could be seen from Bay 3. Just a held look, 2 seconds, and then his eyes moved deliberately to the highway and back. His colleague, 19 years old, 4 weeks into her first job, understood what that look meant. 4:51 p.m. She called 911. "I need police at the Pflugerville Highway 130 quick stop. There's a car here matching the Amber Alert. Silver Honda CRV. plate 7FHKM39. White male driver and a little girl in the back seat. She's wearing a pink shirt. The alert said pink shirt. Pflugerville PD dispatched 2 units. ETA 6 minutes. 6 minutes. Alan Scott had to hold Warren Glover in that bay for 6 minutes. Here is what you need to understand about Warren Glover in those 6 minutes. He was not impulsive. The folder detectives would later find in his apartment, the surveillance photographs, the handwritten schedule, the notes on Claire Henderson's shift rotations, that was not the work of an impulsive man. He had spent 17 days watching. He had chosen his moment with precision. He had constructed a false identity specific enough to pass a document check. Careful men notice things. By minute 3 of Alan's delay, Warren Glover had stopped looking at the pump. He was looking at Alan. He was watching Alan's hands. He was watching whether Alan's eyes moved toward the station windows. He was running calculations. 4:53 p.m. He said, "Forget the pump. I'll pay inside." Alan said, "Almost got it. 30 more seconds." 4:54 p.m. Warren Glover stepped back from the pump. He did not go inside. He stood at the rear of the CRV and looked at the lot. And here is the thing that was happening in that lot without Warren Glover fully understanding it yet. In lane 1, a woman named Grace Metcalf was filling her tank. She was 36 years old. She had 2 daughters, 9 and 11, and she was on her way to pick them up from their last day of school. She had a habit of checking her phone at red lights, which her daughters complained about, and which she freely acknowledged was hypocritical, given what she told them about screens. She had gotten the Amber Alert at 4:36 p.m. while waiting at the light on 130 and FM 685. She had read it twice. She had looked up from her phone at the cars around her and thought, "Silver CRV." She had not seen one. She had driven on. She pulled into the quick stop at 4:46 p.m., 1 minute before Warren Glover arrived. She was thinking about dinner. She was thinking about whether her older daughter had remembered her cleats. She was thinking about nothing in particular, the way you think when a day is almost over and you're just collecting people and going home. Then the silver CRV pulled into Bay 3. She looked at it the same way she looked at everything, directly, without drama. She looked at the plate, partial 7, FHK. She looked at her phone. She looked at the man who got out. She looked at the back seat. She saw the child. She saw the shirt. She did not look away after that. A man waiting near the air and water station on the east side of the lot had done the same thing. Phone, car, plate, back to phone. He did not look away either. 2 more vehicles had pulled in since Warren arrived. Both drivers had glanced at the CRV. Both had looked at their phones. Neither had spoken to the other. Neither had spoken to Alan or to Grace Metcalf. 4 people, 4 separate calculations, all arriving independently at the same unspoken answer. Warren Glover looked at the lot and saw a gas station in Pflugerville on a Tuesday afternoon. What was actually in that lot was a perimeter. He just didn't know it yet. 4:55 p.m. Warren Glover looked at Alan Scott and said one word: move. Not a question, not a request, a word that ends performances. Alan stepped back from the pump housing. Warren moved toward the driver's door. And Grace Metcalf, in lane 1, put her car in drive. She did not drive away. She drove across, a slow diagonal, deliberate, until the nose of her car was blocking the CRV's exit path to the main road. She put it in park. She got out. She left her door open. She stood beside her car and did not move. She later told an investigator, "I didn't have a plan. I wasn't thinking about what I'd do if he came at me. I just thought, I am not moving. If I'm wrong about him, I'm embarrassed, but I'm not moving." The man near the air station drove to the far side of the exit, parked it across, got out, stood beside it. The two cars that had pulled in since Warren's arrival did the same. 4 vehicles, 4 exit points blocked. 30 seconds. No coordination, no signal between them. One person moved, then another, then another, then another. The same decision rippling through strangers who had nothing in common except a phone alert and a child in a pink shirt. Warren Glover stared at the cars. He looked at the people standing beside them. He looked at Alan Scott. He said, "You are all making a very serious mistake." Grace Metcalf said, from across the lot, in a voice that did not waver, "The police are on their way. We are not moving." Warren tried to get back in the CRV. Alan Scott stepped in front of the door. Warren tried to run. He made it 9 yards. Alan Scott had played linebacker in high school. That was 36 years ago. The body, it turns out, does not entirely forget. He hit Warren Glover from behind at a full sprint, and they both went hard onto the asphalt. Alan held him there with his full weight. He stayed there until he heard the sirens. 4:57 p.m., Pflugerville PD. 2 units. Warren Glover in handcuffs before the car doors finished opening. An officer opened the rear passenger door of the CRV. Lily Walker was in the back seat, still sitting in the center. Still. She looked at the officer. She did not cry. She had the 3 smooth rocks in her jacket pocket. She's safe. That part is over. But what police found in the next 48 hours is the part of this story that you are not going to be able to put down. Now the investigation begins. The 65 minutes are over, but the real shape of what Warren Glover had been doing, and for how long, was only just coming into focus. Warren Glover, 43 years old, Austin resident, renting a 2nd-floor apartment in a complex off William Cannon Drive. No current employment on record. Received disability payments. Clean appearance. Quiet neighbor. Nobody in his building had a story about him. That's the specific kind of invisible that takes effort to maintain. He had served 8 years of a 12-year sentence in a Texas Department of Criminal Justice facility, convicted in 2013 for a crime involving a minor victim. He was released in 2021 under a supervision agreement that included GPS monitoring, quarterly check-ins, and a strict prohibition on being within 1,000 feet of any school or child care facility. He was a registered sex offender. Tier 3, the highest classification. He was not related to Claire Henderson. He was not known to the family. His name appeared nowhere in Lily Walker's life, not on forms, not in emails, not in any record of any kind. He had targeted her because he had been watching her. When detectives executed the search warrant on his apartment, they found a locked desk drawer. Inside, a manila folder with a rubber band around it. Inside the folder, photographs. Photographs of Lily Walker. At school. At the sidewalk pickup line. On the section of playground visible through the chain-link fence on the south side of the campus. In the school parking lot on days Claire arrived late. Over 17 days, across 9 separate visits to the area surrounding Oakdale Elementary, Warren Glover had observed Lily Walker and documented what he saw. He had written notes, handwritten in a small spiral notebook tucked under the photographs. Claire Henderson's work schedule, day shift, rotating, frequent late arrivals on Tuesdays and Thursdays, the school's dismissal time, the office layout, the name of the teacher who walked Lily to the office, her first name only, Wendy. He had been inside the parameters of this plan for 3 weeks before he walked through Oakdale Elementary's front door. But here is the thing that changes the geometry of the entire story. The folder did not only contain photographs of Lily Walker. There were photographs of 11 other children from 3 other elementary schools in the Austin metro area. Lily Walker was not the only child Warren Glover had been watching. She was the first child he had chosen to act on. The spiral notebook. We are not going to quote from it. Those words do not deserve air. But lead investigator Detective Nathan Carr described its contents at the press conference held 3 days after Warren Glover's arrest, and what he said is important to understand. Detective Carr said, "The notebook contained what I would describe as a detailed operational document. It included observation records on multiple children across multiple schools. It included a destination, a property in the hill country that Warren Glover had rented under a false name 6 weeks prior to the abduction. It included a timeline for each child. Lily Walker's timeline was the most developed. The others were at earlier stages of observation. The property was located and searched within 36 hours of Warren Glover's arrest. A small cabin on 20 private acres off Ranch Road 965 near Fredericksburg, 2 hours from Austin. No neighboring structures within 2 miles. No cell signal in the immediate area, the kind of place that could swallow a sound completely. Inside the cabin, food supplies stocked for extended stay, restraints, children's clothing in multiple sizes, a lock on the bedroom door that had been installed recently. The screws were still bright, not yet weathered. Someone had put it there deliberately and recently. He had been ready for weeks. Detective Carr said this at that same press conference, and I need you to hold it for a moment before we move on. Based on the timeline in Warren Glover's notebook, had he exited that gas station without intervention, he would have reached the property at approximately 7:10 p.m. At that point, the Amber Alert's highest probability recovery window would have been functionally closed. The property is in a rural area. It is not visible from any public road. There are no neighbors. We may not have found her. I want to be honest about that. May not have found her. Sit with what that means. Sit with what stood between a 7-year-old girl and that cabin in the hill country. A man eating a granola bar who happened to read an Amber Alert 1 minute after it fired. 4 strangers in a gas station parking lot who happened to look at their phones. That is the entire margin. You know how she was found. You know what was waiting. Now here is the detail that has stayed with me since I first read this case. The detail that goes all the way back to the beginning. The pink shirt. Let me take you back to the beginning, not to the school, before that. 2 weeks before June 19th, a Sunday afternoon, Claire Henderson is at the Target on South Congress with Lily. They're not shopping for anything in particular. One of those aimless errands that becomes something else when a child finds the thing she has decided she cannot live without. Lily found it in the girls section. Pink cotton, short sleeves, white unicorn on the front with a small glittery mane. $11.49. Lily held it against herself and looked up at Claire with an expression that Claire later described as the expression she uses when she already knows the answer but is being polite about it. Claire bought the shirt. In the 2 weeks between that Sunday and June 19th, Lily wore it 4 times. She tried to wear it a 5th time to sleep, and Claire said no.
She wore it the next morning to make up for it. That was the shirt she was wearing on June 19th. Now here is what Claire Henderson was told several weeks after the arrest, during an evidentiary review meeting with Detective Nathan Carr. In the folder from Warren Glover's apartment, the photograph spanning 17 days of surveillance, Lily Walker appeared across multiple visits in multiple outfits. A yellow raincoat on a rainy Tuesday, a gray hoodie on a cold morning, the ordinary rotation of a second grader's wardrobe. But in 9 of the 17 photographs, she was wearing the pink unicorn shirt. 9 of 17. She wore it constantly. It was bright. It was distinctive. It was visually trackable across separate sightings at separate times in a way that a gray hoodie simply isn't. You can see a pink unicorn shirt from across a parking lot, through a chain-link fence, through the window of a moving car. Warren Glover's handwritten notes referenced it specifically. He had written a physical description of the shirt next to a notation that read, "Wears frequently. Easy to confirm across visits." Easy to confirm across visits. He had used her favorite shirt as a tracking tool. The thing Claire bought for $11.49 on a Sunday afternoon because her daughter looked up at her with that expression. That shirt had been in a man's surveillance notes for 3 weeks. Claire Henderson sat with that information for a long time before she spoke. Then Detective Carr told her the other half. Grace Metcalf, in her statement to investigators. When the CRV pulled in, I looked at the alert again. Pink shirt with a unicorn. I looked at the back window. The little girl was sitting very still. I could see the unicorn on the front of her shirt clearly through the glass. That's when I knew for certain. That's when I moved the car. The same shirt. The same specific, bright, visually trackable detail that let a methodical man confirm her identity across 17 days of surveillance is the same detail that let a woman in a gas station parking lot confirm her identity through a car window at 4:54 p.m. on June 19th. He used it to find her. She used it to save her. Claire Henderson has said she doesn't know how to think about that. The shirt she bought because Lily looked up at her with that expression. The shirt Lily tried to sleep in. The shirt that marked her daughter as a target. The shirt that brought her home. Warren Glover pled not guilty at arraignment. His defense counsel argued misidentification at the gas station, that the Amber Alert matched thousands of vehicles, and that Alan Scott had acted on assumption rather than fact. The jury heard about the folder, the notebook, the cabin, the photographs, the notation, easy to confirm across visits, written in Warren Glover's own handwriting next to a description of a 7-year-old girl's shirt. The jury deliberated for 2 hours and 40 minutes. Guilty. Aggravated kidnapping of a minor. Violation of sex offender registration conditions, a separate charge because investigators had confirmed through vehicle GPS records and surveillance footage that Warren Glover had been driving near elementary schools in violation of his supervision agreement for at least 4 months. The ankle monitor that had tracked him during his first year of release had been removed at the 12-month mark. His subsequent monitoring was self-reported. Quarterly check-ins. He had shown up to every one. He had been within 1,000 feet of school property, violating the terms of his release, on at least 19 documented occasions before June 19th. No automated system had flagged it. No alert had fired. No officer had appeared. The supervision conditions existed on paper. The enforcement of those conditions relied on the assumption that a man convicted of a crime against a child would choose to comply. He was sentenced to life in prison, parole ineligibility for 45 years.
When the sentence was read, Warren Glover stood at the defense table and showed nothing. No reaction. No expression. Claire Henderson was in the second row. She watched him the entire time. She said later in an interview, "I needed him to look at me once. He never did. Not once in the whole trial. Not when they read the verdict. Not when they gave him life. He never looked at me." She paused, and then she said, "I think that's the most frightening thing about him. Not what he did, but how easy it was for him to pretend that none of us existed." Lily Walker went back to school in September. She asked her mother if she could wear the pink unicorn shirt on the first day. Claire said yes. Claire Henderson has since become a persistent presence before the Travis County Independent School District Board. She has testified twice, submitted written proposals, and personally drafted a revised pickup verification protocol that requires dual confirmation, not a single call that reaches voicemail, but a confirmed spoken acknowledgement from a parent or a named secondary emergency contact before any child can be released to an unscheduled pickup. As of the finalization of this script, Travis County ISD has adopted that protocol in full. 17 other Texas school districts have adopted substantially similar language. Claire Henderson did that. Wendy Page, Lily's teacher, put in a transfer request at the end of the school year. She was reassigned. She has not spoken publicly about what happened. She followed the procedures available to her. The district investigation found no violation of protocol on her part. Beyond that, her experience is hers to carry. Alan Scott received a formal commendation from the Pflugerville Police Department at a ceremony the following October. He took the day off work for the ceremony. He was back at the station the next morning, refilling the squeegee buckets. His daughter in San Marcos drove up for the ceremony. She sat in the front row. He hadn't told her she needed to come. She came anyway. When a reporter asked him afterward what he was thinking when he tackled Warren Glover, he was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "I just didn't want to be the person who didn't." Grace Metcalf drives past that gas station every few weeks on the way to her daughter's soccer games. She has never stopped. She said, "I know what happened there. That's enough for me." Here is the thing that does not resolve. The 11 photographs. The 11 other children. The 3 other schools. Detectives contacted every family. They notified every school. Security was increased. Parents were briefed. The right things were done, and they were done quickly. But here is the question Detective Nathan Carr could not answer when a reporter put it to him directly, 2 weeks after the verdict. If Lily's abduction had succeeded, if Alan Scott had been on a different shift, if Grace Metcalf had been somewhere else that afternoon, how long would it have been before anyone found Warren Glover's apartment? Before anyone found the folder? Before anyone found the 11 photographs? Detective Carr was quiet for several seconds. He said, "We don't know. The car wouldn't have been stopped. The apartment wouldn't have been searched. The cabin wouldn't have been found. He would have been a man with a registered address and a quarterly check-in who had gone quiet. We would have had a missing child case and no physical trail." He paused. Then he said, "I think about that." Lily Walker's recovery is the reason 11 other children's photographs are in an evidence locker and not in a folder in an apartment that no one had cause to search. Those 11 children will likely never know her name. They will never know that a 7-year-old girl in a pink unicorn shirt, sitting in a gas station parking lot 30 miles from where she lived, was the thing that stood between them and what came next. They'll just grow up, graduate, live their lives, not knowing. Lily Walker is 8 years old now. She still collects rocks from the playground. She has a glass jar on her windowsill where she keeps special ones. The 3 from June 19th are at the front of the jar, separated from the others. Claire Henderson has never asked Lily about them. She doesn't know if Lily knows why those 3 are different. She hasn't found the words yet. 4 million phones lit up on June 19th. 2 people actually did something about it. The math only works if people look. If this story stayed with you, share it. Not for the numbers, because somebody in your life might scroll past the next one. Because the next alert might go out to your phone. Because you might be the person in the parking lot. Don't be the person who didn't.